Hi, good evening, and welcome to the regularly scheduled Board of Directors meeting for Marin Water. It's Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. And Terry, if I could have a roll call, please.
Yes, good evening. Director Larry Russell,
Here.
Vice President Jed Smith,
Here.
Director Ranjiv Kush,
Here.
Director Diana Mayer,
Here.
and President Matt Sampson.
Here.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on the agenda?
Not on the agenda.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Vice President Smith,
Aye.
Director Kush,
Aye.
Director Mayer,
Aye.
and President Sampson.
Yes.
Thank
Do we have any public comment on non-agenda matters?
Yes, Mr. Phil Sauter, please.
Good evening. A couple of things. On January 18th, the district had a morning broom pull at Lake Lagunitas that I'd planned to attend, but then the fire department scheduled a broom pull on White Hill at exactly the same time. Three of us from our Valley Broom Service group decided to attend the fire department broom pull, as this is a recent program for the fire department and we wanted to add our support. There were 40 volunteers there, but the coordinators weren't as informed and experienced as the water district is. One result was that their volunteers didn't know the difference between invasive broom and native coyote brush and started pulling the two plants indiscriminately. We were able to show them the difference and save the natives while concentrating on the broom. This same conflict will happen again this Saturday with the water district and the fire department scheduling competing events from 9 to 12. We've got 5 folks from Broom Service who like working together, and we had to make a choice between the two events. It looks like the fire department will continue to host regular broom pulls. Perhaps the volunteer pool will expand to cover both events at the same time. But in case the district sees a decline in the number of volunteers showing up, it may be good to coordinate with the fire department, and I'll let them know the same thing. Second, I continue to appreciate that the district shows usage data on our bi-monthly bills and shows gallons per day along with the unit comparison between the user and the area in which the user resides. I think it would be even more useful to follow PG&E's lead and add a third line to the chart that shows the customer's usage compared with average usage district-wide, as well as with usage for the district's area. It won't cost anything to do this, and it will let the user know if they're doing a good job of conserving water relative to their area and relative to the district itself. Now would be a good time to do this, as the numbers will reflect the flat point of our annual curve when most water use is indoors, and it provides a good baseline for the district's indoor water needs. As we get used to the winter data, we'll see how we're doing relative to our neighbors and to the district as a whole. Then when the summer months arrive, we'll be able to see whether we're continuing to conserve water through the summer months or whether we're starting to pull away from our neighbors and other district users. It would provide a good signal to take a closer look at where the heavy summer use comes from and if we're contributing to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, we have Miss Marilyn Price.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just picking up because Phil was reminding me when he talked about Pacific Gas and Electric bill that I received from them, I think just a week or two ago. It was a personal message for me. And it talked, I logged in and they had all these charts that showed me, where I stood, how I could save. And I don't know how many other people are logging into that kind of thing, but it seems very effective, a personal message by email. So I get a lot of other messages from PG&E too that are equally good. I'm sure you all get them too, but maybe check, carefully some of what they're doing, and you have to know if it's having any results too before you would dig into replicating some of their outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Great, thank you. Move on to Director and General Manager's announcements. Ben, we'll start over on your side.
I have none this evening.
Great, thank you. Director Mayer.
None for me.
All good.
Nothing, Matt. Thanks.
I just have one announcement, I guess more of a talking point, just recognition of the employee event that happened at the end of last month. at the operations yard, and the big success for that. One, kudos to everyone who won the awards, but also two, for all the effort that went into the operations team for doing that. They put on it set a really high bar for the next one. I wouldn't want to follow them for sure, but just a really good event. I felt like everyone was enjoying themselves, and I thought it was really good for the culture of the district. So thank you, Ben, for spearheading that, making that happen, and appreciate all the effort the operations team put into it. So great. Next up, board and committee reports.
I got a couple. I attended the WAC meeting on Monday last, and on Friday, the NBWA meeting. Talk about the WAC meeting first. A lot of changes in the politics of the WAC board because of changes in elections. So it was a different group than before. And other than that, things are relatively routine. It sounds like progress is being made, I think, on the Potter Valley. Wasn't necessarily exactly clear about that. And they're getting ready to get into their budget pretty soon. So they kind of previewed a little bit of that. And fairly well attended, full board, and then the audience was maybe 25 people, but half or more are Sonoma Water, so it's kind of hard to know. And then the regulars that come to every meeting. So effective meeting. The NBWA meeting was also quite effective, and I was just telling Alex he probably would have enjoyed it. When the slides come out, I'll forward them to you. It was about something that I personally have been working on with a client for about 2 years, which is the new diesel air rigs for heavy trucks. And these are the ones that require the filters. And basically, more or less, you're throwing away the engine of your current vehicle. So you can sell it in Arizona, but you can't sell it in California. And it's now coming to the municipalities. They've been exempted from this for a couple of years, or at least it's been postponed or something. I didn't quite follow that part of it, but they had 2 folks from the California Air Resources Board, and actually 3, and they talked about everything from the waiver application that they withdrew to have California have its own standards. They indicated that nothing was changing yet, and they don't anticipate any changes. They see everything going forward. And the municipalities were scrambling about what we're going to do about our trucks. It's complicated. And I would imagine things like the fire trucks, including our fire trucks, probably all get exempted under the 200 hours a year. Maybe the fire trucks run more than that, but most things don't of that special equipment. So they we're talking about what's going to happen and what kind of vehicles. And it was a very effective presentation. And there was an individual from PG&E that was talking about undergrounding of PG&E and how the science of it, how they're approaching it, what they're doing to decide where and when and how to pay for it. So it was, I thought, one of the most effective presentations I've ever seen, especially one from PG&E. The guy was extremely friendly and very much willing to discuss anything. And yeah, PG&E, yeah. This guy is very effective. Might be worth bringing him and talk to us. He was clever and forthright in his conversations. And like I say, I was a little surprised there wasn't more interest in him. I was the only one that asked him a question. And my question was to compliment him on the quality of his presentation. So, there was some effective stuff there. And like I say, when I have the slides, I will forward them to the district somehow or another. Probably worth sending him to all the directors, and probably worth sending him to Darren and those folks, because like I say, people are scrambling, as you well know, about this diesel issue. And it's now come home to roost in the municipalities. So I informed them that my client that I've been working with in San Diego has 300 trucks and honey buckets. And they now have their first electric honey bucket, which they were fought tooth and nail, but they were given to them by San Diego County. So they're like 400 grand or something like that. I mean, they're healthy. And they're very worried, you know, about how to get them charged. And but they sit all night at the facility. So they just question whether they have enough power to do, you know, a couple is one thing. 300 is another. And of course, that's, you know, probably $300 million or something, or $250 million. So, but they're rolling forward. And, you know, like I said, they have resisted it tooth and nail. I probably have been in 20 meetings with them about these engines and those trucks. And I mean, they look just like the other trucks, you know, for all practical purposes, it's the same. And I think it's foretelling of the changes that are coming, you know, that once people stop and realize that, you know, these ads that have been on the TV, they were on the Super Bowl, the ones that go, you know, this is what a hospital room would look like if you didn't have oil and gas. You know, please, that's not the issue at all. It's transportation. You know, we're basically using that resource for something that can be done a different way. And, you know, and like I say, my guys are adjusting and the municipalities will adjust, although they were pretty adamant in the meeting that they didn't see a solution. But, you know, like I said, I told them, I've heard this all before. And now my guys are driving electric trucks. So, you know, it's coming. Anyway, that's what happened in those two meetings.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other directors with committee meeting reports?
Yeah, we had a Finance Administration Committee meeting on January 23rd. The district's outside auditor provided an update of the completed annual audit. I was also able to connect with them before the meeting and have the utmost confidence in them, and they have the utmost confidence in our team. So well done. The staff also provided a monthly financial update, and it was remarkably on target with our budget and our plans, and it just showed exceptional work by Brett and his team. The staff also provided a human resources update and highlighted the data from employees' tenure and onboarding, and I was quite blown away by the turnaround that we have seen in our staff, by the number of employees who are not retiring compared to who were several years ago, our retention, the happiness. I think the initiatives that you've led, Ben, and that the team has taken on and taken to heart are working. And judging by the event that we did with our employee appreciation, it's showing through the data and the numbers. And I really appreciate Vicky's readout of the health of our human resources and staff situation. The public may access the committee meeting on our website via video from the January 23rd finance meeting. Thank you.
Great. Just one report out, and that was on Friday, the 24th of January, was the Lagunitas TAC regular meeting. Was a field trip out to both Roy's Redwoods, and then another field trip out to the work that was being done on Lagunitas Creek. And both projects were really showcase pieces. They really did a great job on both, and highly encourage everyone to actually take a look at both if you can, because they're really neat. Eric and Jonathan, as always, did a really good job representing our district and provided a very educational tour for the group. So great day, good lunch, and I think a lot of people left very happy. So with that, we will move on to consent items. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
There are none.
Okay. Not wanting to pull an item, I just want to highlight the second item on there, and that's the professional service agreement for the Northern Spotted Owl survey, the monitoring, excuse me, just to show and highlight how much money we're putting into this cause. This is another $200,000 to continue monitoring this very special species. So the district, again, moving forward with very important efforts. So with that, I'll take a motion.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Russell.
Aye.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Director Kusch.
Aye.
Director Mayer.
Aye.
And President Sampson.
Yes, moving on to number 9, regular items. First item, the capital program update. Welcome.
Good afternoon, President Sampson, directors, Alex and I, Engineering Director. I'll be providing this update. Have a PowerPoint. 1 second. Is it not? Where's it? It's not showing from beginning.
Where is it?
Looks like
No,
those.
there you go.
Yes.
Oops, not from current. Oh, there you go. It is.
Okay, that'll work. All right, so I'll be providing this update today on the capital improvement program update. So this evening, we're going to go through the fiscal year 25 CIP expenditures through Q2 of fiscal year 25. And just spoiler alert, we're doing pretty good. So, and then we'll go into, what staff are working on as far as in preparation for the next 2-year CIP budget cycle, and going into just a discussion on some select CIP projects that are currently underway, as well as touching on some of those unplanned projects that staff are working on, and then just kind of having a summary recap as to where we stand as of Q2 of fiscal year 25.
Alex, just to clarify, Q2 of 2025 ended in December.
That is correct.
Great.
Yes. So this table here shows fiscal year 25 CIP expenditures through Q2, which is December 31st of 24. As you can see here on the second column with the adopted budget of fiscal year 25, we had around $49.5 million that were an adopted budget. Second column over is the adjusted fiscal year 25 budget. As you can see here, the amount's higher. It's at $62.5 million, which reflects the encumbrances and rolled over because a lot of the projects that we're currently working on do span multiple fiscal years. So that's why that dollar amount is higher. But when you look in the fourth column over with the actual expenses and encumbrances, we're right around $34.5 million, leaving a remaining budget balance of just shy of $28 million, which represents a remaining balance of 45%, which means we're just about 5 percentage points ahead of where we're supposed to be at 50%. So generally, this goes to show that staff are really doing a good job in moving the capital program forward and keeping projects on track. So this is a pretty good spot to be in halfway through the fiscal year. So going into the next 2-year budget cycle. So staff is currently in the process of developing the next 2-year budget cycle. It's kind of a collaborative effort with all the different divisions. And we're really taking a real thoughtful approach as budgeting for these multi-year projects that are spanning multiple fiscal years. A handful of those, for example, are the Nicasio Spillway Modifications Project, the Pine Mountain Tunnel Tanks Phase 2, which is going to take 4 years to complete, as well as the Tocolomo Pump Station projects, just to mention a few. In addition to that, staff is really taking a thoughtful approach on how we're prioritizing those projects by looking at opportunities to address multiple issues. So for example, on pump stations, we're looking at opportunities where there's those pump stations that have fire hardening needs as well as rehabilitation benefits. So those get bubbled up as far as prioritizing and ranking. And then we're also looking at, for our pipelines, we're looking at opportunities to address bottlenecks to provide better operational flexibility and doing those replacements in areas where we can increase our pipe size. And then continuing to stay focused on the replacement of the remaining redwood tanks. So currently we are designing 2 redwood tanks replacement, which will be coming back this summer for a contract, leaving the remaining 2 or 3 for the next budget cycle. So staff will be continuing to working on this next 2-year budget cycle, and we'll have a presentation coming up in the next couple of months.
So Alex, if I could, the pump station with fire hardening and pipeline projects within system improvements, I think, and we'll be talking with the board more about this, looking for priority projects that provide multiple benefits, right? So identifying the pump stations that need fire hardening, maybe right above other pump stations, maybe that have the similar need, and same with, so, multiple bang for the buck. And we'll be kind of highlighting the success at doing that as we bring the recommended CIP forward to the board in conjunction with the budget development process.
But maybe just one follow on. I know when we were developing the rate cycle, the 4-year rate structure, you know, we talked a lot about capital needs, and I think there were 4 large projects that we had identified at that time. I believe the Pine Mountain tanks was one, but there were the Smith Saddle tanks, the Ross Reservoir, and I think the clarifiers at the San
Right,
Geronimo
the North
Treatment
Marin
Plant.
line, maybe, right?
Maybe North Marin 4. Are any of those still in, you know, in consideration coming up?
Staff have identified bond funding for those projects. So we're going to be looking at that and working with our finance manager, Brett, just to determine where that priority falls.
So, and there may be some balancing then with our water supply projects.
Correct.
And I also, we should recognize that the spillway modification at Nicasia Reservoir is a more recent add-on,
Correct.
which we also have to balance against the other big projects. Okay, thanks.
I was curious. I just looked it up. It took 7 years to build Pine Mountain Tunnel. I was curious about, you said 4 years, how that jived with, because I thought it might be a little quicker than that, but apparently the rock is pretty sound
Yes.
where
where
the
it is.
tunnel is. It was very hard work to build a 1.5 miles.
Yeah, well, this new tank site will take 6 years total to construct when it's all said and done. So we're about a year ahead of schedule of the original
It's
tunnel.
pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
That wall's big wall.
Oh. It's in this presentation. So now to kind of focus on some of the select capital projects that are currently underway. So starting with some of the pipeline projects, kind of really focusing on the ones that are, you know, putting a lot of pipe in the ground. It's kind of more than we typically do. So starting with the Granada pipeline replacement project in Corte Madera, this is an example of one of those projects that was really fast tracked because of some pretty substantial main breaks that had pretty costly impacts to the district and the residents. So this project was moved up in the schedule, and it will replace about 2 miles of pipe. And currently to date, we've installed all the main line and service laterals, and the remaining work there is just the paving. And, you know, with the current weather conditions, it's very difficult to do that. So we're looking to wrap that up in the next couple of months. Another one of the larger pipeline projects that the district's working on is the Marin City pipeline replacement project. So when this project is all said and done, it will have replaced 3.5 miles of pipe in Marin City. So given the size of this project, it was essential to break it up into 2 different phases to minimize impact to the residents in the community, where phase 1, which is currently underway right now, is going to be replacing about 9,200 feet of cast iron pipe. And the second phase of this project is currently being designed, and we're looking, and that will replace the remaining 9,000 feet of pipe, which we're looking to bring to advertising later this fall of this year.
Alex, maybe just also flag, we just completed the pipeline replacement along Sir Francis Drake.
That is
right?
correct.
Just recently completed, which
Recently
we're very happy about, those of us that live up there.
Yeah, and actually to add to that, the residents right here for the Granada project have been really receptive and really encouraging and really appreciative of the project, because now they know they're not going to have to worry about any additional main breaks in the roads going forward. So win-win for everyone.
Yeah, just a reminder, the Marin City project is a special project for us. It's also not coming out of our pockets. I mean, with Ben's work with the local community, we were able to get a significant grant to pay for it. Replaces 40% of their pipes in that community that's historically been underserved. So very proud of what we're doing.
Mhm. Thank you. So again, some of the notable projects here, Pine Mountain Tunnel tanks replacement. This is probably the district's biggest capital project that's currently underway in recent history. And when it's all said and done, this will replace the Pine Mountain Tunnel, which is over 100 years old, with two 2 million-gallon pre-stressed concrete storage tanks. So I'm pleased to report that phase 1 of this project has been completed, as you can see in the picture. And that involved, it was a really monumental effort, you know, removing and off-hauling 45,000 cubic yards of soil, constructing this massive 500-foot long, 70-foot tall retaining wall with over 500 soil nails that are longer than 50 feet. So it's, I mean, it was a very big effort, and staff did an
Wait,
amazing job.
yeah, when I first heard a nail wall, I'm thinking nails. How long are the nails?
About 56 feet,
And how many of them?
586 nails, if I'm not
I say, I
mistaken.
haven't seen those at Home Depot. You must be
No.
looking at a different aisle here, you know?
No,
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it was really a big monumental effort, and just the nature of this construction work. It's top-down construction, so you really start at the top, work your way down until you get down to the bottom. So it was really a process to see over the course of construction. And now this really sets, basically the blank canvas for the second phase, which is the construction of the tanks, which is currently has been advertised as of this past month. Staff will be bringing an item for referral at this planning committee this Thursday, and we're looking to start construction of that August 1st of this year. So that is a really big step in the right direction to get Pine Mountain Tunnel out.
In this, I think the board may be aware, this is the third attempt for this project in different locations and different issues and churns. And I just really hats off to Alex and his team and the board for supporting it, and really a critical piece of infrastructure improvement for us in so many ways. It's really, really good to see.
Yeah.
Could any chance we could get a site visit at some point, after the rains, hopefully?
Sure. I'd be glad to do that. It's really impressive to see in person.
And
It'll be different than when I was there the first time.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know you got a lot more of your presentation, but I think since we're already on this note, I think something like this with this type of drone footage or picture or video clip on the website or a blast out would really be interesting so that we can start celebrating successes and milestones and let people know what's going on, because most people will never see this.
Mhm.
But it's just one of the biggest projects we've taken on in years, and it'd be great to get the word out on this one too. Something like this angle is really powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe use the drone.
Yeah, that's okay. And also equally important is the Wolfback Ridge tank recoating projects. These are smaller tanks, but they're really critical to the community right there on Wolfback Ridge near Sausalito. And that project's under construction. We're looking to wrap that up here next month as well.
Can you see those tanks?
No, you can't see them from the freeway. You got to really get into the community.
They're down the hill, huh?
They're up on the very top, but they're so high up you can't see them because of
I
the,
see.
yeah. So of the notable pump stations that staff are currently working on, the Tocolomo pump station is currently in design. Pump station was constructed in 1960, and this project will look to replace the pumps and motors as well as the electrical system, and including some fire hardening to the pump station. So when this project is complete, it will increase capacity up to 28 million gallons a day, which will match the maximum capacity at our treatment plant in San Geronimo. So we're looking to get this project out to advertise this summer, and with the expected completion in fall of in fiscal year 27. Another project, the San Geronimo Treatment Plant Roof Project, is one of those projects that span multiple fiscal years in this budget cycle. That as project has been completed in design, and staff are looking to advertise that project here in the next week or two. And this project will also be at the planning committee this Thursday for a review and refer.
One of the things that was interesting about Pine Mountain Tunnel was that it was constructed to avoid a pump station. So they felt that the quality and design of pumps was marginal, and it was safer to put in a gravity discharge from Kent Lake to
Interesting.
across. And that's what they did. So that's why it was worthwhile for them to build that tunnel and get a method to convey without having to pump.
Impressive feat back then.
Larry, how common were pump stations at that time? Those must have also been sort of new technologies, right?
Well,
1917.
I mean, there have been water companies around since the 1890s or so. And, you pump when you got to pump. I mean, if you got a well, you're going to pump. So I think the two things that have changed a lot are the efficiency of the motors and the design of the pumps themselves. They were certain ways impellers were built that were practical, and then they said, take what you can get, Yeah, it's a good comment. It's a tricky area.
So, with the prior projects in mind, which are kind of more of our belt and suspenders of the type of work we regularly do, staff also were tasked with really focusing and taking on the Nicasio spillway modifications project. So This project was a spin-off project that was identified early on the storage project that staff have been working on as providing a pretty substantial supply benefit to the district. So staff were directed to focus on this project and really kind of get into it so we could move this as fast as we can. So since our last capital project update, staff have been working real closely with our design engineer teams to analyze and design what the modifications would look like, as well as looking at environmental considerations to make this project successful and move it forward. In addition to that, we've been having regular meetings with the Division of Safety of Dams, which is the regulatory agency that has oversight over all dams in the state of California. And any modification, construction, or anything you do to a dam, they have oversight over that. So we've been working closely
Especially
with
the
them.
spillways.
Exactly. So these communications and meetings we've had have actually proven fruitful in that we've gotten some pretty good insight from them as to what they're looking for, what to expect, which has kind of helped us in finalizing and looking at and evaluating the alternatives we're currently working on. So as I mentioned, this project was a spin-off of the larger storage. So it was not identified in the this current fiscal year CIP. So that really required some reprioritization of staff to really focus on this project so we could move it along as fast as possible. And staff too will be giving an update on this project at the planning committee this Thursday. So bring your cups of coffee. It's going to be a good presentation that day.
That's setting up expectations.
That's so and kind of highlighting one of the more notable capital or unplanned capital projects this past year was the Fairfax Manor Pump Station. So this project really came about as a result of an accident that PG&E had with one of their contractors out there, where their grinding machine caused the retaining wall to fell on our pump station, completely demolished it. So now we're in a position where we have to reconstruct it. So staff did a really amazing effort at the beginning to identify an alternative location for a temporary pump station to ensure that we continue providing water to our customers as well as our tank on the top of the hill. And since our last update, we have completed the 90% design of this project, and we're looking to advertise it in March with the start of construction this summer.
It's going right back where it was.
It's exactly, but now it's going to be a lot better. So just kind of to wrap things up, the fiscal year 25 CIP for the second quarter is really doing pretty good, and we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is a good place to be in halfway through the fiscal year. And staff will continue to keep the board informed if there's any additional reprioritization of tasks that are required to make sure that we can continue moving the capital program forward. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Great. Alex, thank you very much. Board comments or questions? Start to the right, Diana.
No comments. Thank you for the presentation. Great presentation.
Well, Alex, you got promoted and stepped into a big job and you've done it really well. So really proud to be working with you. This is an enormous effort and you've taken it on with grace, and I appreciate the report out.
Thank you.
Ranjiv.
Yeah, thanks for the good update, Alex. I know, maybe 6 months ago or so when you gave an update, it seemed like we were maybe moving a little bit slowly on the capital improvements. Clearly, you've caught up. I know there's been a lot of behind the scenes work on building up staffing capacities. So that's all encouraging to see. I have to admit, I was wondering, previously whether maybe we were too ambitious on what we had planned for capital improvements. Clearly, you're managing that very well, including unplanned activities like the pump station in Fairfax, the Nicasio spillway. But please do also keep us updated on when capacities are not sufficient, when we are really spread too thin across so many big projects. Problem solving on those issues, I think, is what we're here for. So do keep us updated on that side as well.
Will do.
Congratulations, doing a great job. It harks me back to a conversation I had with Mike, which I guess is 2 before you, huh? Crystal had that job, right? And when I asked him a question about, well, how do you deal with a situation when you have more work than you have time. His answer was that it just didn't get done. So I think that attitude has disappeared, which I'm glad to have. That in the consulting business, that is never an answer. You can't just rub it off and say, whatever. So I'm glad to see that it's gone. And great job.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm echoing the same comments and really hoping that your team and everyone else is finding this work fulfilling and hopefully seeing progress, because I think we're going to start seeing the payout for a lot of these things in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And it's been really neat to see all the different benefits that the work that you're doing now is going to be as a benefit for the district and for every customer. Just one in the weed comment with the fire hardening of Tokoloma Pump Station. If we really drive towards what's a complete ember resistive construction on that, I mean, the defensible space out there, I think, is pretty decent based on the clearing around it, but making sure that no embers can get in that structure is going to be really important, because we should be able to walk away from that thing in a fire and not have to worry about it, and knowing that it's going to start taking water into our system as we need. So other than that, good job. Terry, any public comment?
There are none.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move on to item B, 2025 Annual Strategic Work Plan.
Okay, this is, I'll be giving this item, I'd be remiss not to, much of the work of putting this together as a strategic plan is Adrian. So thank you for that, in terms of this document ensuring that all the comments that were brought up by the board in the retreat were captured, were kind of organized, and we're able to ensure that we're reflecting all the input from the all-day retreat we had. Reviewing this and developing it is captured here, and it just works going forward. So I don't want to underplay the real work that goes into this nonetheless. As you know, we adopted our 5-year strategic plan in early 2024, setting the priorities for the upcoming 5 years at the time. We have 5 strategic goals, 24 objectives, and over 100 actions in terms of advancing those 5 goals. We manage a strategic plan through these annual work plans, and then the annual work plans, of course, we report out on a quarterly basis. So we'll be coming back to the board in a couple months with the first report out on how we're doing in this. Let's go to the goal 1. So on what we'll just go through the various goals and identify the comments that came from the retreat and how staff is incorporating them going forward. So the work on the water supply roadmap will continue to be the central goal, and that, of course, includes water resiliency projects, including centrally water conservation, implementation of the master plan, and the host of initiatives that we talk about and work on continuously. During the retreat, we heard that the board wants to be kept up to date on a few items of interest, and so there's water budgets came up, backflow requirements, and collaboration with local fire agencies for water, the nexus with Fire Smart and Water Smart landscaping, having that conversation and seeing how we can collaborate. So we'll be scheduling those specific items for upcoming planning meetings to talk more with the board about that. Goal 2, resilient water system. Our key areas of focus, of course, is kind of continue and strive to complete our infrastructure condition assessment, right? And so we did fire hardening. There's things like single points of failure and other assessments that need to be completed, all feeding into the development of a long-term capital improvement plan. We'll develop a EV charging station designed to stay on target and other related issues, as well as continue and deepen our emergency response recovery training and drills and associated preparation. We do understand, want to reflect that capital planning is expressed and what we do appreciate it as a key priority to the board, especially as it relates to risk reduction. And we'll be prioritizing fire hardening, as I noted earlier, other multi-benefit opportunities as part of the CIP development process coming up. Watershed stewardship. The key areas of focus continue, of course, activity tied to the BIFA with the continued focus on fuel reduction and veg management, as we've talked about, and we'll be talking more, benefiting from the science, which wildfire modeling to help guide and frame our efforts for maximum return. Creek restoration, we've been doing, focusing on phase 1B of the Lagunitas Creek habitat enhancement, Nicasio fishery studies that we're doing in support of the Nicasio spillway raise, and we'll be updating the board on that going forward. And moving forward on various strategic opportunities, we'll be talking to the board about the rec management feasibility study, road and trails plan, and other associated activities. And that'll be upcoming discussions. And key themes that will be folded into efforts is expedite our wildfire resiliency work, and we understand that. And think about enhancing our visual storytelling to share the accomplishments. We just have heard from the board that, you think and you'd like us to do more, be more creative. And I know Adrian's putting a lot of thought into that, how best to do it in different approaches in different ways. Goal 4, fiscal responsibility. The key areas of focus, of course, complete this connection fee study and whatever comes out of that over the next few months. Developing our 2-year budget and the associated CIP, transitioning to a new customer bill payment system, which, it's one of those small things that's going to have a lot of payoff. So we're really excited about moving into kind of the present with that. Continuing efforts on, as we've been talking about, our enterprise system, SAP, with the first payroll and HR modules. And then continue to look at ways to strengthen participation and or remove barriers in the low income program. And we heard some themes from the board around that supporting low income customers, however we can, making our payment system interface as easy as possible, which is going to be with a new customer bill system, that'll really get us there, and ensure we're adequately preparing funding for the longer term water supply projects. Organizational excellence, the kind of key areas this coming year is continuing with all the efforts on staff engagement. There's a host of activities, and we'll be continuing to update the board on how that's progressing. Greater involvement, continued to build on this involvement in the industry through papers and submitting abstracts and our pipe tapping team and the like. Continued public outreach, compelling visuals and strategies for conveying and modernizing technologies. We talked about some of that. Some of the input specifically from the board on this is think about data security, which we're doing, but as we move into these new systems, ensure staff is trained. I mean, it's really a good comment, and it's frequently, of course, but in the industry, you hear stories of concern, and it's just right society we're in. It's all about data security. Incorporate messaging about lesser known ways we support our community. Shoot, I forgot. What was the example that I asked you and you gave me? I'm sorry.
Supporting the egg community during the drought.
Oh,
with
right,
fire.
right. A great example. And who really knew that we really helped the ag community in West Marin, in fact, maybe parts of Sonoma during the drought, where the board made an exception of providing water out of our service area, and we set up a way for that to be done in a very expeditious way. But that's those things, there's a lot of little things, and how do we really ensure there's an appreciation of all the value we bring to the community? Did want to note that, as you might have noted in your attachment, there were 2 modifications to the actual work plan, and they were in goal 5. And that's adding the data security training specifically, and the creative storytelling and campaign. So those were the physical changes. Some of this you heard will be bringing to committees, and others will just kind of integrate into our work. Now, as we come to our quarterly updates, as we move forward into the year, we'll also be revisiting some of these keyboard concept questions and comments and direction that came from the retreat, to ensure that they're near and present, and we're integrating those into our work. So we'll implement the work plan, report out approximately quarterly basis. And with that, the recommendation is to accept the 2025 annual strategic work plan, and I'll take any questions or comments you may have.
Great. Ben, thank you very much. We'll start on this side at board comments. Director Russell.
Just thanks. Nothing in particular. A lot to bite on.
Yeah, Ben, thanks. As far as I can remember, I think everything that came out during the discussion at the retreat regarding input on the work plan is captured here. I know I thought water budgets were sort of maybe a bit of an esoteric subject, but I think could be quite important for improving our efficiencies further. And I see them here. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for listening and bringing all the inputs in. I just want to, for the public, just to make sure everyone knows, the full work plan for 2025 is attached to the meeting packet, if anyone wants to see the details on each of these activities. Thanks, Ben.
Great. Thank you. Director Smith.
Just the one thing that really stood out is the immense work that we're doing on our watershed to preserve that habitat and critical species. I mean, we put so much energy into our pipes and our water resiliency and our efforts and supply, and it can't be understated how much work this organization puts into maintaining this spectacular land and the habitat that we appreciate. Unusual for an agency like this to have that kind of effort, and I think sometimes underestimated the amount of work and the budget that it takes to do it. So well done. Thank you.
Director Mayer.
I don't have anything. Thank you. Really happy to see what we've got in this strategic plan.
Ben, thank you for putting this together and for taking all the comments that we had from the retreat, putting them in there and prioritizing. Any concern about not being able to get some of this stuff done?
I'm not concerned about it. I would say, I hope this may sound a little awkward, I guess, in my mind as I was saying it. In a way, I'm anticipating we don't get it all done. Because in the design, that was the goal, to stretch the organization in the way, in my view, you do it, you set up something like this that you feel is a stretch, and, you get to 80%. We know there'll be things that aren't in here that drop on us. We'll be talking with the board about, and the benefit of the quarterly updates, as we did last time, I think staff super appreciated the board's reaction when we were talking about things that weren't moving forward in the schedule we wanted. I'd expect by year 2, if we had it as a goal in year one and still it's lagging, the discussion becomes more, but it's, to me, this is a document that brings us, alignment of staff and the board and the community of the priorities of the organization. And that's an ongoing discussion through the year
Right.
inherently as things change. So I don't expect we'll do it all, but that won't happen in a vacuum. That'll be part of the discussions with the board of how we manage a really ambitious workload.
Great. And that's really good to hear, because I think, there's stuff in here that's definitely higher priority at some point. And so understanding that on a quarterly basis, that works. The updates, if something's starting to slip, then we need to know about it sooner than later so we can provide direction to do that, and I'll selfishly say the fire hardening piece right off the bat, if that starts slipping and slipping and slipping, it would be good to know that right off the bat, or if there's anything that's going to be hindering it for that. So I appreciate the quarterly updates too. And then also, heads up if something's not going to be able to be implemented on a timely manner. So thank you. Great. Any other board comments? Terry, public comment.
Yes, Larry Menikis.
Good evening. I appreciate the presentation, and I'm happy to see that the Road and Trails Plan will be updated. And relating to the January 17th planning meeting, we were informed about the infrastructure assessment and risk-based prioritization, which is aligned with a 5-year strategic plan. And we were informed about risk analysis in terms of likelihood of failure and consequence of failure. And we were also informed about specific high-risk projects for the 10-year CIP. The current 2005 Watershed Road and Trails Management Plan does not explicitly contemplate pipeline failure as a primary focus of its study. However, as we're seeing, we need to do more disaster planning. It's important. And at that point, I don't think it was really discussed. The RTMP is primarily concerned with erosion control, habitat protection, trail maintenance, and user management on MMWD lands. However, it does not discuss infrastructure vulnerabilities in the context of erosion, storm damage, and watershed protection, which could indirectly relate to pipeline concerns, but does not propose specific actions for addressing potential pipeline failures. I think that's a whole. Based on what Alicia presented to us on the 17th, we looked at everything out there, but we aren't looking at the main trunk lines, and we aren't looking at potential failures up there. And I think with this plan, we need to expand it to cover that piece of it so that we are looking explicitly at the infrastructure, what would happen under a disaster scenario, what would happen, as we're going to see in Los Angeles in a couple of days, when you have a fire and then the major rains hit. And so these are things that I think we need to contemplate going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Okay, great. And then Molly, for clarification, do we take a motion on this to accept it?
I think we should.
Okay, great. If I can get a motion, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Director Kush.
Aye.
Director Mayer,
Aye.
President Sampson.
Yes. Moving on to item 10, future board and committee meetings and agenda items.
Thank you. So there will be a planning committee this Thursday, and at that planning committee, many of the CIP items that our engineering director mentioned will be discussed, such as the Nicasio Spillway update and the Pine Mountain Tunnel Tanks Phase 2 project. There will be the next board meeting will be February 25th. That focus will be, the item focus that night will be the water supply update. However, on February 25th, there is a closed session at 5:30. More information regarding that closed session will be brought to you as we get closer to the date, but it's 5:30. Also later that week is the Finance Committee meeting, not the Finance Administration / special board meeting, just the Finance Committee. And that will be Thursday, February 27th at 9:30. One of the key items discussed will be the SAP update. And that's, one more. Tamales Bay Foundation meeting, it will be held on Wednesday, February 19th at 3 p.m. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Any more clarification on the item, the main topic for next board meeting, the water supply piece component of that? Or are you gonna be looking at narrowing more down choice wise? Is that where we're going with it?
Yes,
Okay.
the plan is to kind of build on the last presentation of the board, focus on, we're kind of looking or calling the big four that the board suggested we focus on, and kind of a deep dive into each one with a kind of thoughtful recommendation, which specifically it's not a binary or a single approach. It reflects kind of the board's desire to, yeah, if we're moving this project into design environmental review, we're still going to be pursuing grants for this. We're still going to be tracking advancements in this technology. So it's going to, and of course, water conservation is central to it all. So it's going to capture, all of that. And we'll be talking about the within the recommendation, within that concept, if the board supports it, the criticality in the plan for ongoing adaptive management to look at the right, the nature, the extent, the pace of climate change and how it impacts, and where we would go from this initial phase, if that's the direction we go, and the options that are ahead of us beyond that.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Excellent. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.